I wanted to bring in somebody who was front and center as the Wildcats dispatched Mississippi, and he knows something about winning a national title. Mr. Jack Givens. Good to see you, sir.
Hey, Dick. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, we've had you on the show via the telephone because you're back and forth between here and Orlando, and you happen to sit down next to me at the game, and I recognize your face. Hadn't seen you in so long.
Thanks a lot.
But we were talking during the game and just now before we went on about just how good this team can be, and clearly so many goals. I mean, they've achieved only that they've had a lot of fun, a number one ranking. But one of the things I wanted to ask you first and foremost was being the biggest target, because you guys wired the field.
Mm-hmm.
You were number one preseason. You weren't number one every day of the season, but for the most part, you were expected to win it all, and you won it all. This team's been number one for quite a while now. What is that like every day? I know you don't wake up in the morning worrying about it, but you sure hear about it on the road, don't you?
Well, you do. But when you're Kentucky going into these places in the SEC, teams are going to be up for you anyway. So being number one, yes, it gives them more incentive. But for a lot of these teams, I mean, they mark the date that Kentucky's going to be in town right from the beginning of the season, because that's what they shoot for every year. So it does make it a little bit tougher being number one. I think this team, being young, a young team basically, has done a great job of handling being at the number one position. I mean, they've done a great job. I mean, I see no effects one way or the other, which is really good that you've been able to and Cal's done a great job of that. They've been able to stay pretty level-headed all year, and they've attacked each game one at a time like you hear about, and that's what you have to do. And that's one of the many things that's very impressive about this ball club. A lot of people ask me how our team in 78 would match up against this ball club.
Well, you guys are in your 50s, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, we could still play with them now. But
in your prime.
In my prime. They ask about that team. And I still think, Dick, and you just touched on it, and you've been around sports a long time, so you know this. I still think there is really no substitute for experience.
Yeah.
I mean, I just know for a fact that after you play together for 4 years, and after you practice all those hours you just talked about, and eat all the meals we ate together, and tell all the stories, and go here together, go there together.
Complain about your coach.
Complain about the coach, which we never did, Coach. If you're listening, we never did. But I just don't think there's any substitute for experience, and we had that. We had been to the final game before, the Final Four. We'd been to the finals. We won an NIT. We missed the Final Four my junior year, as you say, by one game.
Yep.
A team that was as good or better than the team we had in 78.
Great team.
Great team. If there was any way we could have had Cal Macy, who was sitting out that year, on that team, I mean, you know what it could have been. So, but when you have that kind of experience, it just goes a long way. And we would have had that. I think also we were very, very physical team.
Sir.
I mean, we were extremely physical. As a matter of fact, we had teams complaining about how we brutalized the game of basketball. And I can just see, as good as Davis is, I can just see Rick Roby or Mike Phillips pounding him, or both of them.
Yeah.
Pounding him over the course of a ball game. I mean,
and you look at Kid Gilchrist and Terrence Jones, but you got a James Lee in there,
and you got James in there, and of course, I mean, we had LaVon Williams, guys coming off the bench who just like to beat people up. I mean, that's what their job was. The
other thing too is, and it's so much fun to compare the two, but. You think about the fact that, these guys have Deron Lamb and Darius Miller who can knock it down, and Wiltshire coming off the bench. I'll give you Jay Shiler, Truman Claytor, Kyle Macy, Jack Givens, and you know who can knock down from where the arc is now was Rick Roby.
Rick Roby can make the shot.
And you guys had at least 5 who could have hit that shot. Yeah. Plus Tim Stevens sitting over there.
Tim Stevens was over there, and you know how Tim shot the ball. I mean, we would love to have had the three-point line. I mean, there's no question about that.
Yeah. Would have been an interesting matchup.
It would have been a fun game to play. It would have been interesting.
Yeah. You've seen shot blockers who can alter the course of a game. And you grew up, you and I are similar age. You saw Bill Russell play,
right,
whether in person or on television. And I don't think it's unfair to throw Anthony Davis in there. He's not as good as Bill Russell, and he never will be.
No.
But in terms of the way he affects a college basketball game, he absolutely is a parallel to what guys like that could do.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. I mean, this kid is it's unbelievable. Number one, I watch him in practice, pay close attention to his footwork.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing his footwork is to the place where you have guys that are juniors and seniors in college that still have a hard time drop stepping and still have a hard time understanding when to come help, when not to come help, when to hedge over a little bit, and how to recover to your guy without buying the first pump fake and jumping out of the gym, getting in foul trouble. He does some things that are really. I mean, some of it you can't teach because it's so natural, but a lot of it, you tell him one time, and it just seems to click.
Basketball IQ.
That's right, huge IQ.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that he played point guard a lot, I mean, that kind of changes his whole perspective and how he sees the game because he hasn't been stuck in the middle in the paint his whole career. So he has some advantages at this age that not a whole lot of players have had over the course of the history of basketball.
This is kind of a weird question, but the fact that he was a perimeter player until that growth spurt, how might that have helped him with that footwork?
Oh, I mean, you think about it when you see a point guard play as opposed to a guy that's 6'9", that's lumbering up and down the floor. I mean, it helped tremendously. But that IQ we were talking about is how that really affects him because he thinks the game as a guard a lot of times as opposed to thinking it as a big guy. I got to stay here with my back to the basket. I got to, I got to stay in the paint. I can't come out. I mean, so he thinks it as a perimeter player a whole lot more than he thinks it as a traditional big man.
He might think it as a perimeter player, but he executes it every bit as much.
He executes it as
a post player. And
exactly. That's what I say. A lot of what he does is just, I mean, for his age, it's really pretty unbelievable.
Wise beyond his years.
Yes, good.
Talking to some people about the fact that the hometown team that year played, and James was the sixth starter, basically.
Right, exactly.
But here you've got two guys from Lexington, KY, starting for UK, and tremendously impactful players. I don't know if we'll ever see that again. I don't know what it is about Lexington high school basketball. I know it's cyclical, but when you guys were playing, you're at Bryant Station, he's at Henry Clay. You had Tyrone Dunn over at Tate's Creek.
Please don't start naming names.
Oh, I know.
We had so much talent in the city at that time.
But what has happened to the city?
Well, Dick, I see that everywhere. Of course, I live in Florida, have for a long time now, and I've had an opportunity to watch high school basketball there.
Yeah.
Of course, Florida's a football state.
Right.
Now, you got to understand that. But but you see a lot of the same thing. I mean, there's a few good players that come along, but from talking to guys that grew up in Florida, it's changed there a lot also. And I really don't know what has happened to high school basketball. I know when we were coming up, when I was young, the only thing I had to do, only thing I could do growing up in Aspendale, the housing project there, I mean, the only thing we could do was go to the park and play basketball. I mean, and we played all day. We didn't have the mall, and we didn't have this
video games
and Facebook and computers and laptops. I mean, we just didn't have all of that stuff. The only thing we could do was play whatever time of the year it was. That's what we played, whether it's baseball, basketball. I didn't play a lot of football because I don't like pain, but a lot of guys
did. You didn't play in high school, did you?
I did not play in high school.
Smart, man.
I just, man, I see some of those guys get hit, and I'm thinking, now why would a guy in his right mind do that?
Darius Miller was a wide receiver at Mason County.
Yep.
And played with a really good quarterback. And we asked him if it would entertain any notions of playing football once he left Mason County. Nope. Did not like going over the middle.
Smart guy. Yeah. But that's all we did was we played sports all day.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't have the options.